All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Grand Prix Talk for this week. We're talking about the U.S. Grand Prix this afternoon and a few other racing events, including NASCAR. So, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get this show on the road. Nice times. It is just past 2 o'clock in the afternoon here in Long Beach, California. You know what that means? It is time for Grand Prix Talk. Everybody, welcome to the show that provides an instant chef mindset to the Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay Steak, 5-star restaurant, whatever you want to call it, World of Motorsport. For any outsider who might not already know, here on the Long Beach campus, we just got this weird InstaChef machine, which is basically supposed to be an instant food machine. It's literally called InstaChef. I had some before coming into the studio today. It's not bad. I'm not sure if you'd want to eat it every day, but hey, it's food, and honestly, it tastes all right. Anyway, my name is Sergio Morales. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether that's on 22westmedia.com, on the 22West Radio app, which is available now on the App Store or Google Play, or on my YouTube stream at TheSergioShow. Welcome along, everyone, to Grand Prix Talk this afternoon. You can follow us on Instagram at 22WestLB on Instagram, and you can follow me on Instagram at SMortorsports. That is SMortorsports. Okay, so today is October 22nd. We are in the post-US Grand Prix special episode here of Grand Prix Talk. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on this afternoon. But let's see. It is October 22nd today, so a few things regarding the history of October 22nd. So let's start off today's show with the history facts. On October 22nd, 1797, we see our off-track fun fact for today. An off-track history fact. On October 22nd, 1797, the first ever recorded parachute jump is made over the city of Paris, France. You didn't need me to emphasize that it's in France. But anyway, the first parachute jump of note is made by Andre Jacques Garnier. I don't know how to say this guy's last name. I'm sorry. Garnerin, I think. From a hydrogen balloon 3,200 feet above the city of Paris. It was Leonardo da Vinci's idea at first, and it was a Frenchman, Louis-Sébastien Lenormand, who fashioned a kind of parachute out of 2 umbrellas, and he jumped from a tree in 1783. But Andre Jacques Garnerin was the first to design and test parachutes capable of slowing a man's fall from a high altitude. So for anyone listening in or watching the stream who likes to skydive or something, I guess you can blame old Andre over there for making it happen, making it possible at all. For our on-track history fact for today, on October 22nd of 2023, so literally 1 year ago, Max Verstappen's 2023 U.S. Grand Prix victory would match his own record for most wins in a single Formula One season. That was 15 wins that man had. He'd actually end the season with 19 races out of the 22 races that were run that year. He took 19 race wins in 2023, which is an all-time record for most wins in a single season of Formula One competition. Sorry to any potential McLaren, Ferrari fans, or anyone else who might be tuning in, but yeah, that's just a little history fact for you, that Max has the record. Don't at me, by the way. I am not one to be like the biggest Max Verstappen aficionado either, but it is nice to know that that guy has an insane record right now. Anyway, with our history facts out of the way, let us dig into some very interesting news coming out of Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, where the U.S. Grand Prix was just held this past Sunday. So, for anyone who watched the race, and believe me, we will be breaking down the race in today's episode of GPT, but before we break down the race, let's talk about some not too much race-related stuff, but somewhat race-related stuff. Pirelli, the tire manufacturer, was the title sponsor for this weekend's United States Grand Prix, and they were gonna hand out some pretty nice looking trophies until the potential for copyright came about. Quote Autosport.com: Pirelli drops USGP trophy design over potential copyright infringement. The human-shaped trophies were replaced late on as Charles Leclerc took victory in Austin. For my YouTube stream, I'm actually going to try and show you guys what those trophies look like. So I'm going to share my screen. And for my radio stream, well, I'll have to describe at the top, like where the head would be. There's a helmet in place, and it has like two little mouse ears that are sticking out of the helmet. There's the first place one is in gold for the helmet. The second place one is silver, and the third place has a black helmet in place of a bronze helmet. So you're probably wondering, what's the deal with that? So there are a few problems with this design that I noted pretty darn quickly. And I'll actually, again, I stopped sharing my screen on my YouTube stream so that they would be able to so that I can bring up the comparisons needed. And again, to my radio stream, I really am trying my best to describe it to y'all. But here are a few issues with that design. Number one, it looks a little bit too much. Mouse's helmet right over here, which if you look at the helmet of deadmau5, by the way, deadmau5 is a DJ. I want you guys to know. He has a similarly shaped mouse helmet that it's kind of his trademark, honestly. It's, you know, you're at a deadmau5 show when the dude is wearing this mouse helmet over here. But that's not the only problem. There's another one, and it's called Mickey Mouse. Yeah, that's right. The House of Mouse himself, or the mouse. Yeah, Steamboat Willie over here. It also looks way too similar to Mickey Mouse. So those are the two big issues that Pirelli were facing before they decided to swap out the trophies. And it sucks because they even had a name for it. It was named Hero, but Hero did not get handed out to anybody. Those trophies were retired at the very last minute out of fear of possible copyright infringement from deadmau5, Disney, or even Lego with the figure of the block of the body of the trophy. And it's not just them. There's actually another brand that you may have never even heard of. They're called Bear Brick, and apparently the trophy design kind of resembles what they usually do. So Bear Brick, let's see, let me look this up. Bear Brick is actually a brand that's best known for, well, making bear figurines out of bricks. That's kind of the best way I can describe it for you. For example, again, I'll pull it up to my YouTube stream so they know exactly what I'm talking about. YouTube, this is what it looks like. It looks like a bear with a Lego. It looks like a combination of a bear and a Lego. So yeah, that's about as best as I can describe it to y'all. But yeah, that's pretty much the big problem. It looked too much like too many other things that had already been brought up in the past. Such a shame, honestly, because I genuinely thought that was a really nice looking trophy, but it was not going to be handed out anymore. Instead, race winners, the podium at the US Grand Prix got these pretty generic looking trophies. Granted, they look nice, but you know, when you look at what they could have had, it sucks. It's such a shame. But that's just my humble opinion on things. You know, I don't work with deadmau5. I don't work at Disney. I'm just some dude at the 22 West studio with an opinion that I like sharing with y'all on a weekly basis. But now let's share some facts instead of my humble opinion on trophies. F1's 2026 cars have been updated. So the regulations have been tweaked. They've been worked on a little bit. And apparently, according to motorsport.com, F1's 2026 cars will now be 2 seconds faster after rule tweaks. So that's going to be a pretty significant boost. The problems that was facing the 2026 regulation were that they were comparably about as fast as Formula 2 cars, which defeats the purpose of Formula 1. But, quote motorsport.com, F1's planned 2026 cars are now about 2 seconds per lap faster as a result of regulation changes made by teams and the FIA. Outline plans for the next generation of F1 cars were revealed ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix, but following concerns expressing their likely performance level, which, by the way, like I said, was about as quick as a Formula 2 car, if not slower than Formula 2, work began on making potential tweaks. So what are those tweaks, I hear you ask? Well, again, quote motorsport.com, there's been an increase of performance of the car by probably about 50 points of downforce. This has brought the performance from what maybe was minus 40% compared to current cars to around minus 50. In terms of performance, the resulting lap time of the cars is very close to current cars. All that has been done was promised in June. Now, who said that? I hear you ask on basis with the FIA. So yeah, it's looking like that's a very positive step forward in the right direction, which they needed because, man, I was not about to watch F1 if they were going to be having cars that were slower than F2. In that case, there's already a little thing called IndyCar. They are severely underrated, but hey, just something to consider. So F1's tweaking their 2026 cars, and it's looking like they're going to be faster than the than the current gen and faster than F2, which is exactly how it should have been from the beginning. So yeah, good news all around regarding the 2026 regulations. And interesting news regarding them deadmau5 looking trophies. But now let's briefly deviate course here because we got to talk about NASCAR here, all right? Like, this is something very interesting. If anyone hadn't already watched, well, NASCAR this past weekend, they were in Las Vegas, and we already have our first of 4 championship drivers. His name is Joey Logano. This guy ended up winning in Vegas, and he brought the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford back to victory lane. This guy is now locked into the championship 4. He's the first of 4 drivers to make it in. The other 3, well, we'll find out soon enough, I guess. It'll be very interesting to find out who the rest of the grid are for the championship 4. On that note, let's briefly break down the South Point 400 race results, as that was the race that NASCAR took part in this past weekend. So let us share our screen here. I feel like I'm sharing my screen in a few minutes, like literally right now, more than I have in the entire season combined. Anyway, here we go. So Joey Logano, he was not only the race winner, but as we mentioned, he is the first championship 4 driver to lock it in. Christopher Bell, who is also in the NASCAR playoffs, he finished in 2nd place. The highest non-playoff driver was Daniel Suarez. He fortunately got knocked out of the playoffs last weekend at the Charlotte Roval. Sorry, the weekend prior. Anyway, moving on. William Byron would finish in 4th place ahead of his teammate Alex Bowman in 5th. The rest of your top 10 from Las Vegas were Martin Truex Jr., Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, John Hunter Nemechek, and Chris Buescher. That is your top 10. I'm surprised to see Chris Buescher up here, honestly. He finished ahead of Kyle Larson. That is something I did not expect. I really didn't think that Chris Buescher would finish ahead of Kyle Larson again. The last time that happened, that was when Chris Buescher won. But anyway, very interesting stuff. So, with our top 10 in Vegas out of things now look like in the playoffs, as I said, locked into the championship 4 in Phoenix. Christopher Bell is 2nd. Kyle Larson is currently in 3rd. William Byron is on the bubble going into the next race in Homestead Miami Speedway. More on that shortly. He's 4th ahead of Denny Hamlin, who is in 5th place. So these 2 drivers right here, William, I want to throw out my prediction now before it gets a little crazy. William Byron and Denny Hamlin are both past winners at Homestead Miami Speedway. And NASCAR's next race is, you guessed it, the Straight Talk Wireless 400 at Homestead Miami Speedway. So I think we should be in for a pretty good matchup between these 2 and a bunch of other drivers who might take advantage of this 1.5 miler to try and do something crazy here and maybe lock themselves into the championship 4. Now, Joey Logano, he's already good. And the thing is, Logano actually did win a championship at Homestead in 2018. That's one of 2 championships that guy has. The other came in 2022. So Denny Hamlin and William Byron, they both have won at Homestead. I feel like one of these 2 might do it again this coming weekend. And with that, they're going to lock themselves into the championship 4. If they don't, if one of these 2 drivers don't win at Homestead this weekend, well, we're going to pretend that I didn't say anything, and I'm just a dude at 22S with an opinion. Which is basically what Grand Prix Talk is all about anyway. Now, looking at the rest of your playoff standings, as I said, we left off with Denny Hamlin in 5th place. Tyler Reddick is currently in 6th place. And oddly enough, the bottom 2 are Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott. The former is a past champion. He's actually the defending champion for any newcomers into the show. Ryan Blaney is 7th in the standings going into this weekend's race at Homestead Miami Speedway. But you heard it here first. Either William Byron or Denny Hamlin, one of those 2, just knowing that they've both won at that same racetrack in the past, one of those 2 is going to do it again this weekend. And with that, they're going to lock themselves into the championship 4 in Phoenix. You can catch the Straight Talk Wireless 400 this coming Sunday, October 27th. It'll be at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. That is 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can catch the race on NBC, which is Channel 4 for us in the LA County. Please check your local listings. You can also tune into the race on radio via the Motor Racing Network or Sirius XM. So there is, oh shoot, I forgot to end the screen sharing. So there is your NASCAR review / preview for this weekend. We had a pretty good race in Vegas, and I can guarantee it's going to be another great showing at Homestead Miami Speedway this weekend as well. So with that, let me catch my breath here for a moment, after which we are going to be really digging into the Formula One United States Grand Prix, which is the main subject that we are all here for today. But on that note of Grand Prix, actually, we'll come back to that. How about a little bit of Peggy Go? I'm a huge Peggy Go fan, if I do say so myself. So here is Lobster Telephone in the radio edit. We'll be right back to Grand Prix Talk after some Peggy Go, where we'll be talking about the U.S. Grand Prix. So stay with us, y'all. We'll be right back. Where can I cover with this? There we go. Perfect. Welcome back to Grand Prix Talk, everybody. That was Lobster Telephone by Peggy Go on the radio stream. I've been listening to too much Peggy Go lately. And that was also a brief announcement from Around the Bases and one of their hosts, Kaylee Gallagher, which, by the way, Around the Bases is the show to tune into with playoff baseball now fully underway and World Series coming up. The Los Angeles Dodgers are in it, which is so good for us LA locals. So, yeah, that should be the show to tune into if you ask me. So Around the Bases, we're in for some good shows, honestly. Brody F1 on YouTube, welcome back to the show, man. It's always good to hear from you. Good to see you again. Welcome back to the show, y'all. You're actually just in time, actually. We are just about to break down the U.S. Grand Prix. I have quite a few thoughts. If I'm being completely honest with y'all, I have a few thoughts about the U.S. Grand Prix. Now, I want you to know, I was at this race last year. So don't think that I'm just going a little crazy here and just rambling on about stuff. I actually was at this race in 2023. Obviously, I wasn't this year, but that's okay because, I have been. And I got to be honest with y'all, it was pretty darn fun, if I'm being honest. But for 2024, this race was a little bit, let's just say different. I don't know. Something about it just felt a little bit off. We start with the sprint race, right? So let's break down the sprint race, all right? That's one of those things where I want to start off. Let's break down the sprint race first and foremost. The sprint race, I'll be honest with you guys. I completely forgot that sprint racing in Formula One was even a thing until I found out, like, oh, there's one coming up this weekend in Austin. And part of that is because not only did we have an entire month away between the previous race in F1, the Singaporean Grand Prix, and the US Grand Prix, but also because as far as sprint racing goes, we really haven't had one in a good long minute. I remember we definitely, I think, had one in Miami. But other than that, I genuinely cannot even remember where the sprint races were at. Okay, so we had one in China, April 19th through the 21st. The second one was in Miami. Next was Austria, and then was the United States Grand Prix. Let me tell y'all something. The Austrian Grand Prix was way back in June 28th through the 30th. We haven't had a sprint race in give or take 3 months. Maybe even longer than that. June, July, August, October, 4 months almost, if you think about it. So it's been a good long minute. And I'll be honest, I really did forget that sprint racing was a thing in F1. And the thing is, we've got 2 more coming up. We've got one in Brazil at the beginning of the month of November. And then we've got one more right at the end of November in Qatar. So with the background out of the way, now we can really start to break down the sprint race at the US Grand Prix, which I thought was, well, par for the course, shall we say. To be fair, I kind of thought that we were, as one YouTube comment said, back to normal settings. That was my thought when I saw the race results and actually after the race. So the US Grand Prix sprint race was par for the course, as I say. So Max Verstappen actually came away with the race win. He also got pole position for the sprint race. Lando Norris actually finished in 3rd place. Carlos Sainz came in 2nd place. So there you go. So that was about as basic as you can get, right? As far as the sprint race is concerned. Yeah. What more is there to say, right? Max Verstappen kind of launched away and took off. I will say, though, it was a pretty entertaining few laps. So I'll actually show you guys the full race results. So YouTube stream, here we go once again with the screen. Might become a lot more accustomed to this after today. So Max Verstappen came away with the sprint race victory at the end of 19 laps that they ran at Circuit of the Americas. Carlos Sainz finished in 2nd place, and Lando Norris completed your podium there. Charles Leclerc and George Russell finished 4th and 5th. Lewis Hamilton, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hülkenberg, Sergio Perez, and Oscar Piastri rounded out your top 10 in the sprint race. So it doesn't look like there would be too much going on, too much difference, especially when you consider Max is at the top and Lando Norris is in 3rd place. I mean, I saw a YouTube comment that literally said, back to normal settings. And honestly, I was kind of convinced that that was going to be the case. But then qualifying came around, and that was not exactly the most normal thing to happen in F1 this year. So I'll try and break this down as best I can. Q1 and Q2 were pretty darn normal, I would say, but Q3, man, that was something. That unfortunately was something. Okay, so in Q1 we had one big shock actually. So I'll run you down most of the drivers. Zhou Guanyu would qualify in 20th place with a lap time of 1:34.2. Valtteri Bottas would qualify 18th with 1:34.1. Franco Colapinto 1:34 flat, as did his teammate Alexander Albon. Now, why did I skip 19th place, I hear you ask? That's because Lewis Hamilton was the guy in 19th place. He clocked in a 1:34.154. He was just behind Valtteri Bottas, who clocked in a 1:34.152. Literally 0.02 of a second was the difference between Bottas and Hamilton, former teammates at Mercedes. And Lewis, I mean, this was the big shock of qualifying in Q1, if you ask me. I think if you ask anybody, Lewis Hamilton, 19th place at Circuit of the Americas. This is a track that historically he's done very, very well at. He's won a world championship here in the past, in 2015. I remember that one all too well. There's also extended highlights available on YouTube as well. If you think I'm going a little nuts here, I'm not. Believe me. Anyway, moving on. So there is your Q1 exits, and I'm still shocked to see Hamilton in that list. Moving on. Q2 exits. Liam, he clocked in a 133.339 in Q1, but in Q2, he did not set a lap time, unfortunately. Or more accurately, he might have gotten deleted. Anyway, moving on. Liam Lawson qualified in 15th place. Lance Stroll qualified in 14th place. Esteban Ocon got 13th. Nico Hülkenberg for Haas, who are just starting out their new partnership with Toyota. Those guys qualified in 12th place, which is not bad, but when you consider where his teammate ended up qualifying, Nico might have a little work cut out for him. Yuki Tsunoda for RB would qualify in 11th place, just getting beat by Sergio Perez there, actually by quite a little bit. At the end of Q2, Yuki Tsunoda set a lap time of 133.5. Sergio Perez set a much more needed lap time of 133 flat, as I like to say. So yeah, now we get into your top 10, and this is where things get crazy in Q3. Already with Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton getting out of qualifying in Q1, which no one was expecting, certainly not me. Then you have another big incident also involving a Mercedes. It was George Russell crashing out in qualifying, which ruined the prospects of other drivers up ahead, like Verstappen and Norris, of setting quicker lap times. At the end of the day, Lando Norris did get the pole position for the U.S. Grand Prix, but he did it with a lap time of 132.330. Max Verstappen was on a hot lap during that when George Russell crashed. He would have to settle for second place with a 1 minute 32.361. And Carlos Sainz with a 132.652 would get third place. Charles Leclerc would qualify in fourth place, and Oscar Piastri would start the race in fifth. George Russell, despite his crash, actually would start the race in sixth place, but the crew had to fix that car overnight, unfortunately, so they had their work cut out for him once George Russell was in that tire barrier. And the thing is, it was in turn 19. Believe me, this is foreshadowing. We're going to get into that stuff. Believe me. Pierre Gasly would qualify in seventh in a yellow Alpine that looks a lot more like a Bumblebee than it does an Indiana Jones car. I'll show you guys in a little bit. Fernando Alonso, 8th. Kevin Magnussen, 9th. And Sergio Perez would start the race in 10th. Now, oh, shoot. That is not the button I intended to hit. I intended to hit the screen share button. Now, for those who don't understand what I meant when I said that the Alpine looked like a Bumblebee, well, here's what exactly I mean. Alpine F1 Indiana Jones car. I'm not kidding. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it was somebody's idea to combine Indiana Jones with Alpine. That explains it. It's Xbox behind the collaboration. Actually, I'll show you guys on the screen. Share screen over here. So according to IGN India, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, it was Xbox's idea to team up with the BWT Alpine F1 team. Now, for those who don't know, Xbox Microsoft in general is a sponsor of Alpine, and so they actually have a sponsorship with Xbox through their Microsoft brand. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, that explains it. Indiana Jones Great Circle looks like it is a new video game coming up pretty soon. You know what? This is my show. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna find this one out. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. That's the name of the game, apparently. Yes, it is. It's a new game that's headed to major consoles pretty soon. So I'll share my stream here. I know we're kind of all over the place today, but hey, USGP special. Okay, so Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, it's indeed a video game dropping on December 6th for PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Microsoft Windows. Understood. That explains why the Alpine looked like a Bumblebee instead of its usual dress up. But anyway, yeah, that was something, I suppose. That was very interesting. But now let's break down the race, shall we? Because this is what we're all here for. This is what we're here to see. We're here to see some F1. We're here to break down opinions. on Formula One, and now we're going to do it with the US Grand Prix. So lights out and away we go. It's Max Verstappen and Lando Norris on the front row with Lando on pole position. They head up the 120 plus foot high turn one, and a pretty good battle between Max and Lando into turn one. Maybe a little too good because Max forced Lando off the track, and one Charles Leclerc happened to be at the right place at the right time. This dude pulled off an easy overtake out of turn one. Like, I really cannot say this enough. I feel like that was one of the better overtakes. He just sent it. He booked it, basically. It was a pretty darn good overtake to watch. Unfortunately for me as a Red Bull fan, it was not too good seeing Max get overtaken like that. But you know what? Leclerc, like I said, right place, right time, and he was flying after that. So after that little turn one fiasco with Lando, Max found himself in second place with Carlos Sainz chasing him. Carlos Sainz was in third. Lando Norris would actually fall to fourth place at the end of turn one. And as they moved along the S's during the first lap, yeah, it was pretty easy going for all of them. But something that I found extremely interesting was how Leclerc was already building a gap between himself and Max Verstappen. On the first lap, this dude was starting to run away with it. I think that should have been a warning sign for all of us that the Ferraris were not a joke this week, actually. I was not expecting that. See, it's funny because some of my buddies and I, in fact, we were talking about the U.S. Grand Prix and some predictions, and they were like, that they really hope that the Ferraris brought on some upgrades, and it looks like they did. And I was just thinking, like, I didn't think that they were actually going to be this crazy. It's something completely unexpected for me personally. Now, turn one, lap one was one indication of the battles ahead, but later on in that same lap, it was Sainz versus Verstappen battling out as they went into the stadium sections of the track, including round about the COTA Tower, and just before that. Trust me, that COTA Tower is ginormous, 250 feet high. That's quite something, 252 to be exact. But anyway, yeah, so that was an interesting battle. Unfortunately, further back, one car got caught out, and it was one of the Alpine Bumblebee cars. Alexander Albon tapped poor old Esteban Ocon. Alex Albon would wind up in 19th at the end of that lap. He did move up. Anyway, our one and only yellow flag and first safety car, also the only safety car of the afternoon, came thanks to Lewis Hamilton, if you'd believe that one. Already with a pretty darn forgettable weekend when it came to qualifying, where he qualified 19th. He spun out, lost control of the car in turn 19, and poor old guy actually beached the car into the gravel right outside of turn 19. For some reason, that would apparently be the end of his race, though, which I did not think was going to be possible. But yeah, an extremely rare mistake from Lewis Hamilton, if you ask me. This old dude actually ended up beaching his car. He brought out the first safety car in Formula One since the Canadian Grand Prix back in June, which kind of gets me thinking, wouldn't it be nice to be a safety car driver? I mean, what do? You get to hang around with the rest of the Formula One paddock. I think the downside to it all, though, is that if you are called out onto the track, like, you know, you kind of have to be a little bit more careful, and you have to keep a certain speed, because I remember those days when Hamilton would complain about the safety car going a little too slow. And if you don't know, that was from Germany 2019. Or was it Germany 2019? Yeah, it was. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I digress. I am getting off topic here, sort of. Anyway, the race would restart on lap number 6 of 56, and Leclerc would once again be at the head of the field, with Max Verstappen actually giving chase. I generally thought that this was going to be the beginning of a battle between the Ferrari and the Red Bull, but not exactly, to be honest with you. By literally 5 laps later, Leclerc was a whole 3 seconds ahead of Verstappen. If that wasn't already an indicator, I don't know what to tell you, man, honestly. On lap 10, we had a little spin up at turn 1. That was Zhou Guanyu, who also similarly lost control all by himself going up turn 1. Meanwhile, an interesting battle between two drivers. One of them a newbie. The other has 2 world championships to his name. It's Fernando Alonso and Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson, he's kind of been beefing with Fernando all day. But you know what? I want y'all to listen in, to tune in here. I'm going to try my best to describe the battle between Liam Lawson and Fernando Alonso. They go down the backstretch, right? And these guys are just battling it out. Liam had DRS with him, after which he actually was able to overtake Fernando, but Fernando wasn't giving up. This dude literally sent 2 wheels off the track, or was it 1 wheel? I think it was 1 wheel, but anyway, one of those wheels, no, it was 2, in fact. It went off the track, and this dude, like, he still kept on going. And I gotta say, those slow motion cameras of this looks very, very good, honestly. So that was lap 10 or so. On lap 13, we had another overtake. That was George Russell overtaking Valtteri Bottas. And it looks like he wasn't too happy with the move because, you know, he got a 5-second time penalty for that. And this dude was not happy. They literally told him, like, hey, you got a 5-second time penalty for forcing another car off the track. And George Russell was like, what? It was kind of funny to see, to be honest. But anyway, you know, something I do want to point out is that during that same time frame where Liam Lawson and them were battling it out, and also just a few laps before George Russell's penalty, there was a little bit of concern for Carlos Sainz. Quote him, something smells like fuel, guys. This was lap 9 and lap 10 around there. See, I was a little bit worried there, and I think a lot of y'all probably were as well. Brody, what are your predictions for Mexico? We will get to that here shortly once we're done talking about the U.S. Grand Prix. Believe me, I have a few predictions about that, so stay tuned, man. Okay, so regarding Carlos Sainz's weird fuel-smelling problems, he would have to pit eventually, which he did. He pitted before Leclerc did. He pitted on lap number 22, but man, I was a little concerned when apparently something was smelling like fuel, but it looks like they were able to take care of that issue right in the pit, or like from the computers that they have in the garages now. So technology, am I right? Anyway, Max Verstappen will later come in for his pit stop on lap number 26, which seemed to be going very well. He left a stop time of 2.7 seconds, which is about the same time that I take in eating a pepperoni pizza or a cheese pizza. Nah, it's not actually, but I love cheese pizza. What can I say? Okay, so yeah. So that's pretty much most of what happened. Like, between Max Verstappen's pit stop and lap 51, there wasn't really much going on. But lap 51 comes around. Oh, do we have a battle in our hands, everybody? Strap yourselves in, get some popcorn, get some soda, call your friends, get them to tune into Formula One, specifically show them lap 51 onward of the U.S. Grand Prix 2024. Let's break it down. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, the 2 championship contenders going on so far. These 2 are 3rd and 4th in the race on lap 51. And the way that these 2 are battling it out goes crazy. Lando Norris seems like he's going to try to find a way around Max. Max says, nope, you are going to have to go around me the hard way. And Max Verstappen holding him off, trying to force him around, force him out of the track at some points. Foreshadowing, by the way. Yeah, it was crazy. Lando Norris is not giving up, though. This dude really, I feel like Lando Norris really does not want to be seen as just your little gamer driver anymore. Like, he really does want to be taken more seriously as a future world champion or something. Like, I do notice it in him. And part of that comes from the way he be racing now, which, I mean, I don't really recall seeing too many crazier battles like this, but 2024 really has delivered in F1. So now they're going down the backstretch during lap 52. Lando Norris had DRS to his advantage. He sends it. Max Verstappen sends it even further. And this, my friends, is where we have controversy. This little moment right here, I'm going to pull up a photo of it so you guys can see, because I'm not trying to get copyrighted by Formula One media. I've seen a fellow YouTuber named FP1 Will do it. Man, I feel bad for the dude, but you know what? Go subscribe to him. He deserves it. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to show y'all a photo as best I can, because this is when things get crazy. This is what the controversial penalty is all about, all right? And believe me, we're going to dive into that. So let's show y'all the photo. This right here, this is what I'm talking about. This is one of those moments where Max Verstappen apparently forced Lando Norris off the track. Yeah, that was one of those moments right there. It was wild. It was wild, I'll tell you that much. So yeah, you had that. And that's not all, because that's kind of when the stewards have to intervene for some reason. Max Verstappen is saying that Lando overtook him outside the track. Lando saying, no, I was totally fine because, this is just how racing is. And Lando, like, I don't know how he felt inside that car at the time. I can imagine he was pretty upset. But anyway, the verdict came out literally at the end of lap 56, almost just as Charles Leclerc was going to cross the finish line. The verdict came out. Lando Norris was slapped with a controversial 5-second time penalty for forcing another car off the track, the other car being Max Verstappen. So there was that for you. And goodness me, I knew this was going to be controversial. Even I don't know how I feel about it. That's how crazy it was, because I feel like it was just racing. But on the other hand, I do understand that Max Verstappen is an extremely aggressive driver. So I don't know. Like, I don't think that Lando Norris's penalty was justified. I don't think it's on him. Maybe it should have been Max, honestly. But anyway, that's just my take on it. But yeah, Charles Leclerc, in the middle of all that, he would come away with the win at Circuit of the Americas. Teammate Carlos Sainz would come home in second place for the Ferrari's first 1 and 2 in the United States since 2006. It's also Charles Leclerc's third win of the season. The first 2 came in Monaco, which is his home race, and Monza, which is Ferrari's home race. And I believe this is their second 1 and 2 of the season. The first was in Australia when Carlos Sainz took the win then and there. Let's see. Brody F1 says, but Max went deep into the corner as well. Kind of the point, man. Kind of the point. Like, they both went deep into the corner. I would have just called it a racing incident. This is one of the things I don't like about stewards in F1. And why do they gotta butt their heads in when it comes to them just racing? They should just let them race. I'm being honest. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't work with them. I wouldn't understand. But such a bummer, honestly. I don't think Lando's penalty was justified. They really should have just let him. They really should have just let them race like NASCAR does or IndyCar. I'll give you a little context for us in the United States. IndyCar, typically something like this happens. Doesn't matter as long as can your car drive? Yeah, okay, keep on racing. Y'all better race. That's the way it should be. That's the way they should be doing it. I don't agree with Lando's penalty, in my humble opinion. But anyway, Lando Norris, on that note, that 5-second time penalty would cost him the podium. Max Verstappen would be elevated to third place despite crossing the finish line fourth behind Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri, Lando's teammate, would be classified in fifth place, and the rest of your top 10. George Russell did a pretty solid comeback considering the qualifying crash that he had. He would finish in sixth. Sergio Perez would finish in seventh, with Nico Hülkenberg, Liam Lawson, and Franco Colapinto finishing out your top 10. Can we talk about Liam Lawson here for a moment? Liam Lawson, I did not think he was going to finish in the top 10 in his first race, but, not bad. Not bad at all, honestly. I think it's pretty good that he was able to show that type of performance in him for what is essentially his 2025 F1 audition. Let's be honest with ourselves. The thing with Liam Lawson is he doesn't have a seat for 2025. He's only got a seat for this year, for 2024. From here onto the season finale at Abu Dhabi. So that's what I'm thinking. This is pretty good. That's a pretty solid showing, if you ask me, for Liam Lawson. I'm really hoping that he can do some good stuff here in the coming days, weeks, and so on and so forth. With that out of the way, let's briefly run down our 2024 driver standing. This is what it looks like now. Max Verstappen continues to lead with 354 points, but the battle for second place is actually considerably close now. Lando Norris has 297 points to his name. Charles Leclerc now has 275. So that's not far at all, if you ask me. Maybe, just maybe, we might have a three-way battle in our hands for the 2024 Drivers' Championship. It would take Max Verstappen not scoring points at the next race in Mexico City to really close the gap and really give ourselves a championship battle right here. Do I think that's going to happen? Not exactly. We'll dig into that here shortly. Let's also take a look at our constructor standings, and then let's talk about the Mexico City Grand Prix. So constructor standings, McLaren, 544 points. Red Bull, 504 points. Ferrari, 496. This is a very small gap between second and third place. For sure, we have a battle for the constructor standings. No doubt about it at this point. Between McLaren, Red Bull, and Ferrari. That is a given, in my humble opinion. The driver standings, let's just see what happens. Now, let's briefly talk about Mexico City Grand Prix. All right. So for 2024, the Mexico City Grand Prix is happening October 25th to 27th. That is this weekend, by the way. Yeah, that's this coming weekend. We should be in for a great weekend of racing over here. Here is what the track looks like for my YouTube stream. For my radio stream, I'll try and break it down as best I can. So the racetrack starts with a very long kilometer-long straightaway over here, which doubles as both a speed trap and a DRS zone. Then turn 1 is a hard 90-degree right. Turns 2 and 3 are consecutive. It's almost an extended chicane. Then they go down another long straightaway before heading into turn 4, which is a hard 90-degree left, and turn 5, a hard 90-degree right. Then they do this little triangular turn into turn 6 before they get into the sweeping turns of 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, which are pretty fast corners if you ask me. Then they go on another DRS detection zone over here. And then they dive into Sector 3, which is the stadium section. They'll be driving inside the Photosol Stadium in Mexico City. I've been around the area. It's actually pretty neat, if you ask me. But racing inside a baseball stadium, that's something else. So turns 12, 13, 14, and 15, actually 13 through 15, that's inside the Photosol Stadium, so keep an eye out for that before they head around turn 16 and 17, which are two right turns into the home stretch. This track is going to favor the team that can nail the straightaway speeds. Brody F1 on YouTube says, I think it's going to be a Lando or a Checo win. That is a bold claim, honestly. A Lando win, I feel like there's a good chance of that happening, but a Checo win. Now, take it from a Checo fan, I would love for that to happen. I would be so happy. Do I think it's going to happen? Realistically, it would take a little bit of a miracle, honestly, because Checo has been, unfortunately, not in full form, but it doesn't help that his car hasn't been so good either. And now we're seeing it because McLaren and Ferrari are really biting into Red Bull's point standing. So take that as you will. Lando, I think, would be probably a good pick for a win. Checo, man, I'd love it, but we'll see what happens. It is his home race, so he's got that bonus support for him. But I think Ferrari is probably going to be in for a good weekend. If Monza is anything to go by, Ferrari is nailing these racetracks with low downforce, with full speed ahead. It looks like that's their specialty. I really do think Ferrari might be in for a good weekend. McLaren, on the other hand, maybe they'll be all right. I do notice that they specialize more in like the balance tracks like Miami. That's what I've seen. But Ferrari will probably be in for a good weekend, assuming their engine doesn't go boom boom, which they haven't. These engines have not gone boom boom. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, a Lando or a Checo win, like I said, Lando Norris win, probably a more realistic scenario, but a Checo win, if it were to happen, I'd be celebrating for sure. I'm telling you that one right now. The Mexico City Grand Prix will be run over the course of 71 laps, a race distance of 305.354 kilometers. The all-time lap record came from Valtteri Bottas, a 117.774. That was in 2021, so keep an eye out for that. This weekend's race, the Mexico City Grand Prix. Let's find out when and where you can watch it. So Mexico City Grand Prix, like I said, should be in for a fantastic race this weekend. I'm hoping, at least. We didn't always have spectacular races in Mexico, but more often than not, it's a good race to watch. The Mexico City Grand Prix will be on Sunday, October 27th at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. That is 4 p.m. for y'all in the East Coast. And please check your local listings if you're outside of the LA County area. But yes, that is what it's looking like. You'll be able to watch the race on F1 TV Pro and on ESPN. Yeah, that's where you should be able to watch it. And honestly, we should be in for a great weekend of racing at the Mexico City Grand Prix. NASCAR, like I said, they'll be running at Homestead Miami Speedway. That will be also on Sunday, but that one is instead going to be on NBC Channel 4. That'll be at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So there you go. There is your U.S. Grand Prix review and Mexico City Grand Prix preview. Next week, we will be talking about the Mexico City Grand Prix and reviewing it. We'll see if our predictions here, if Lando or Checo came away with the win or if somebody else did. We'll find that one out soon enough. But I will say that beyond that, it has been a great hour of chatting away with y'all and rambling on here on the at the 22 West studio. I'd say it was pretty fun, wouldn't you say? But that is going to end Grand Prix Talk early for today. But maybe consider getting used to that, because we are going to start having these things where now we're going to end the show a little earlier so we can allow the next folks at 22 West Media to come on in and do their thing. All right, so with Grand Prix Talk complete for today, coming up next here on 22 West Radio is Hear Me Out by Sam and Jerry, Samantha Rosario and Jerry Reynoso. Their show is coming up here in just a few minutes' time, so stay tuned. Also, oh, by the way, thank you for tuning in, YouTube stream. Really good to hear from y'all. I hope to see you guys back here next week. So stay tuned for Hear Me Out coming up next here on 22 West Radio Studios. 22 West Radio Studios, what am I saying? The radio station. Don't forget to download the 22 West Radio app, available now on the App Store and Google Play. Follow us, 22 West LB on Instagram. Follow me at SMortorsports on Instagram, SMortorsports. It's been fun, y'all. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Grand Prix Talk today. My name is Sergio Morales. I will catch you all next week from the Mexico City Grand Prix. Until then, take care, everyone.